Let's be brutally clear. The objective of a spiritual awakening is not bliss. It is an unflinching, savage confrontation with the totality of what you have concealed from yourself. The spiritual industrial complex, with its legion of sanitized gurus, peddles a fantasy of ascension, a stairway to some ethereal light. They sell you a saccharine cocktail of love, higher vibrations, and a life devoid of suffering. But the elemental truth they conveniently omit, the secret charted by the unflinching mind of Carl Jung, is that a genuine awakening is never an ascent. It is a descent. It's a harrowing, disorienting, and frankly terrifying plunge into the abyss of your own psyche. The agony, the cognitive dissonance, the absolute obliteration of will you're likely experiencing that isn't a sign you've failed. That is the categorical proof that the process has finally, irrevocably begun. What they failed to tell you is that this was never about escaping your humanity. It is about reclaiming it in its terrifying entirety. And to do that, you must march directly into the shadows you have spent a lifetime fleeing. For the masses, spiritual awakening evokes caricatures of beatific monks and placid yogis radiating a manufactured joy. We are force-fed a narrative of transcendence, a final exit from the messy, gloriously flawed operating system of being human. We're conditioned to believe that upon awakening, ambition will clarify, purpose will crystallize, and life will simply fall into place. But for those who endure a genuine awakening, the reality is a violent inversion of this fantasy. In place of clarity, a profound confusion. Instead of motivation, a deep, unsettling nihilism. The career you bled for now feels like a hollow, absurd pantomime. The relationships that once defined you feel like ill-fitting costumes. The ambitions that propelled you are exposed as ghosts you were foolishly chasing. This is a phenomenon so common, yet so profoundly silenced, that it has a designation in Jungian thought, the post-awakening void, the dark night of the soul. It is a state of psychological liquefaction that occurs when your old identity is actively dying, but the new one has yet to be forged. You are suspended in a liminal space, a psychic chrysalis, where the entire architecture of you dissolves into primordial goo. Does this resonate? This unnerving apathy where nothing retains its former significance? A deep, cellular exhaustion that resides not in the body, but in the soul. Have you stared into the mirror and felt a total alienation from the person staring back, as if their tribulations belong to a stranger? To be clear, this is not clinical depression, though it may masquerade as such. It is the necessary, unavoidable consequence of expanding consciousness. From a Jungian perspective, most of what we call motivation is not born of a love for life. It is born from abject fear. The fear of inadequacy, the terror of being unseen, the dread of lack. Your ego, your provisional sense of self, erects an entire life as a frantic compensation for this core wound of worthlessness. A spiritual awakening is the moment the light of your own consciousness becomes bright enough to expose this fraudulent game. You see the fear-based engine that has been running your existence, and once you see the source code, you can no longer consent to its operation. The fuel line is severed. The engine sputters and dies. What remains is silence, an unnerving, vacant, motivationless silence. Most people panic here. They believe they've irrevocably broken themselves. They scramble to fill the void with new spiritual objectives, new dogmas, new distractions, anything to evade the terrifying emptiness. But Jung warned this is the gravest error. That void is not your enemy. It is the fertile, chthonic ground from which your authentic self is meant to erupt. This is where Carl Jung enters, not as a guru peddling platitudes, but as a courageous cartographer of the soul's abyss. Through his work with individuals in profound psychic crisis, Jung forged a map for this treacherous inner landscape. He called the journey individuation. Individuation is the lifelong process of becoming the individual you were always destined to be. Its aim is not perfection. Its aim is wholeness. And wholeness, Jung insisted, is non-negotiable. You must integrate every fragment of your being, especially the psychic detritus you've condemned and exiled to the dark. To grasp this, you must understand two critical concepts: the persona and the shadow. The persona is the curated, idealized mask we present to the world. It's the roles we perform: the competent employee, the devoted partner, the responsible citizen. It's a necessary social lubricant, but the pathology begins when we mistake this mask for our actual face. A spiritual awakening precipitates the cracking of this facade. The roles feel fraudulent, the social games become insufferable, and the narcotic of external approval loses its potency. The collapse of the persona is terrifying because it feels like annihilation, but it is the absolute prerequisite for discovering who you are beneath the performance. And what lies beneath when the mask is torn away? Here you confront the shadow. The shadow is the centerpiece of Jung's secret. It is the unconscious repository of your psyche, the psychic basement where you have violently shoved everything you deemed unacceptable. Your repressed rage, your abyssal shame, your clandestine jealousies, your untamed feral instincts. Society, family, and your own ego have indoctrinated you to believe these dark aspects are evil, so you disown them, you repress them and bolt the door. But as Jung famously stated, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The spiritual journey, from a Jungian perspective, is not about making the living room brighter. It's about taking a goddamn lantern and having the courage to descend into the basement. Because here is the secret within the secret. The shadow is not evil. It is the very source of your vitality, your creativity, your authenticity, and your power. That rage you repressed. It is the boundary-setting sovereignty you desperately require. That wildness you suppressed. It is the creative fire that will finally incinerate your meaningless life and forge a new one. Jung knew the shadow conceals our most precious gold. Therefore, the pain of awakening, the confusion, the nihilism, the descent, is not a detour from the path. It is the path. This descent is archetypally encoded in mythology and esoteric lore. The ancient alchemists, whom Jung studied with obsessive intensity, had a name for this stage. The Nigredo means blackness. It's the first and most critical stage of the alchemical great work, the putrefaction, the decomposition, the metaphysical death of the old self. The alchemists understood that before lead can be transmuted into gold, it must be violently broken down into its raw, chaotic essence. They would seal it in a vessel and heat it until it became a black, rotting mass. An old alchemical text declares, "When you see your matter going black, rejoice, for you are at the beginning of the work." Your post-awakening void, your burnout, your dark night, this is your Nigredo. It's the sacred composting of your former identity. It's your psyche dissolving the brittle structures of the ego to prepare for a genuine rebirth. Attempting to fix this with positive thinking is like an alchemist discarding the blackened substance because it looks messy. It aborts the entire magnum opus. The goal is not to escape the blackness, it's to endure it with unflinching consciousness. So, how do you meet the shadow? Typically, it ambushes you through. A projection is when you unconsciously plaster a disowned part of your own shadow onto another person. Consider that one individual who irritates you to an irrational degree. The quality in them you find so infuriating, their arrogance, their laziness, their neediness, is almost invariably a quality that exists in your own shadow that you have fiercely repressed. That intense emotional charge is a trigger. It's a signpost. Your own unconscious is weaponizing that person as a mirror to force you to reclaim a piece of yourself. This is also the authentic meaning of "it's not the universe winking at you with angel numbers." For Jung, synchronicities are moments when the external world mysteriously contorts itself to reflect an inner process, often forcing an encounter with your shadow. You're wrestling with repressed anger, and suddenly your life is populated by angry people, goading you to finally acknowledge your own. This is the same war depicted in the ancient Gnostic myths. The Gnostics spoke of a false creator god, the Mom, who ensnares souls in a material illusion. This demiurge is a perfect metaphor for the conditioned ego and the matrix of societal programming that dictates your life. The path to liberation, or direct experiential knowledge, demanded confronting the archons, the servants of the demiurge, the cosmic jailers. From a Jungian standpoint, these archons are our own projections. Your tyrannical boss, the relentless pressure to consume and perform, the endless digital scroll that keeps you numb. These are the modern archons imprisoning your soul. The Gnostic quest, the individuation journey. To withdraw your projections, confront your inner demons, and realize the power you abdicated to these external figures was yours all along. This is how you shatter the matrix of the false self. So, if you are stranded in this void, what the hell are you supposed to do? The Jungian answer is profoundly countercultural. At first, nothing. The primary task is what Jung termed conscious waiting. This demands resisting the ego's frantic impulse to fix the emptiness. You must create the space to simply be with the discomfort, the purposelessness, the terror of not knowing. This isn't passive resignation. It is an active, courageous holding of psychic tension. You are creating a sacred pause for the ego's cacophony to die down so that a quieter, more authentic voice can emerge. This is the voice of the self, the organizing intelligence of your entire psyche. Its impulses are not loud and fear-based. They are subtle, calm, and feel like a deep somatic yes. But here you must be vigilant against the modern trap. Our culture abhors a vacuum. The moment we feel empty, we are conditioned to gorge on filler, social media, another self-help book, a new productivity app, spiritual bypassing. These are the modern archons, the tools of the demiurge, engineered to keep you perpetually distracted from the real inner work. True integration demands you shut off the noise and listen to the silence. While doing nothing is the first step, it is followed by active internal warfare. These are your weapons. First, shadow journaling. This is the art of tracking your triggers. Keep a log. Who or what provoked a reaction today? What was the precise feeling? What quality in them did you condemn? Now ask the brutal question. Where does that exact quality exist in me? Demand radical honesty. This is how you begin to reclaim ownership of your shadow. Second, active imagination. This was Jung's cornerstone technique for dialoguing directly with the unconscious. Find a quiet space, close your eyes, and summon a feeling or a dream image. Allow it to take a form. a person, an animal, a monster. Ask it, "What do you want from me?" Then shut up and listen. Allow the images and words to flow without censorship. You are opening a direct channel to the deeper strata of your own psyche. Third, dream work. Jung saw dreams as raw, uncensored communiques from the self. Pay attention to them. Write them down. Do not fixate on perfect interpretation. Simply holding them in your conscious awareness is an act of integration. They are letters from the abyss, and by reading them, you honor the sender. These practices are not a quick fix. They are the methodical labor of excavating the treasures from the basement and integrating them into the main house. You are not eliminating the shadow, you are allying with it, and in doing so, you are becoming whole. So what is the end game? If not perpetual bliss, then what? Here is the final, most subversive secret. The culmination of the individuation process is not becoming some levitating guru or a radiant being of pure light. The final stage is a profound and radical ordinariness. It is the unshakable peace of simply being a whole, integrated human being. It involves the dissolution of the spiritually awakened persona itself. You stop talking about spirituality and you simply embody it. Your presence becomes the transmission. You discover you can be in the world, but not of it. You can engage with life's dramas without being devoured by them. You develop a kind of psychological sovereignty, not a hardness, but a deep, quiet resilience. Triggers no longer hijack you because you've integrated the psychic hooks they once latched onto. Projections from others don't stick because you know who you are. You become capable of holding paradox. You can see the light and the dark within yourself and others without the neurotic need to choose a side. You find joy not in manic highs, but in the quiet texture of daily existence. A conversation, the warmth of the sun, the taste of your food, these become sacred. Your life doesn't become easier, but it becomes infinitely deeper. This is the wholeness, not perfection, that Jung championed. The spiritual path you were sold is a dangerous lie. It's not an escape from suffering, but a conscious descent through it. The emptiness, the loss of will, the pain, the plunge into darkness, these are not indicators that you are lost. They are the unmistakable signals that you have finally found the real path. Carl Jung's revolutionary insight was that the soul is not healed by reaching for the light, but by having the fortitude to embrace the shadow. As he said, your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. You are not broken, you are not failing, you are in the Nigredo, the sacred blackness at the inception of the great work. Do not flee from it. Do not attempt to fix it. Have the courage to sit in the fire of your own transformation. Because on the other side of this psychological death lies not some vapid fantasy of enlightenment, but something far more precious, the quiet, adamantine reality of your own whole self. Your descent is your only true ascension.